Right, okay, in the last video I looked at selective breeding, genetic engineering and cloning, and looking at the science part of it. For this little video I just wanted to look at some of the ethical reasons behind genetically modified crops in particular. And the reason I want to look at this is because they are coming up more and more in exams where they're asking your opinion on why we do these things in science. So if we talk about genetically modified crops, if you remember from genetic engineering, what we're doing is we're taking a desirable gene and we are putting it into the DNA alongside all the other genes so that we can produce perhaps crops that last longer, or they have produce more yield or something like that. So genetic crops, genetic technology can rapidly produce organisms with the desired features. However, many people have worries that inserting genes into GM crops will have unexpected side effects, because really we haven't done enough testing on it to find out. However, in the USA, people have been eating genetically modified crops since the early 1990s. The chances are you've probably eaten some without even realising. This has produced a good natural experiment. The control group is in Europe, where genetically modified crops are not grown commercially and genetically modified food is not generally sold. In the USA, no super weeds have developed that are resistant to weed killers, because that was an issue that they thought might be. There is no reported reduction in biodiversity where genetically modified crops are grown compared with where they are not grown. Fears that the monarch butterfly would become extinct have not proved true so far. No one has reported a health problem from eating genetically modified foods. So this is all a real sort of benefit. However, many people are still developing health problems from eating non-genetically modified foods, such as processed foods and foods containing a lot of saturated fats and salts. So if we are looking at the arguments for and against, if we look at the arguments for genetically modified food, more people can be fed as genetically modified crops produce a higher yield. Many people have no problem with the idea of eating genetically modified produce. Genetically modified farms may have increased productivity while using fewer inputs, so the food costs may fall. And most GM crops have been safe so far. We haven't actually got any evidence against that. However, arguments against genetically modified crops. Poor farmers that would benefit from the high yield genetically modified crops may not be able to afford the seeds in the first place. Those who have a problem with the idea of eating genetically modified produce won't buy it, meaning that farmers lose money and markets. However, if you probably don't know, but about 20 years ago we had the same problem with organic farming, because organic farming is all about producing products where there's no chemicals used, and the prices for organically grown crops was really high. Now they've come down a lot now because more people are eating them, so maybe this is where we're at with genetically modified foods. Genetically modified crops may change the ecosystem in ways that cannot be reversed, because once you've modified something you can't take it back. Genetically modified crops could cross-pollinate with wild plants, making it impossible to control genetic modification. So although at the moment all the arguments are showing that genetically modified crops are really advantageous, there are still some issues that we have not come across, or that may need resolving. Okay.